All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Roz McCarthy, founder and CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I'm so happy to be here with you guys this evening. We're talking about Florida, and we're talking about legalization in Florida, and we're going to have a great conversation. We have two of our friends to the organization. These are lawmakers. They're Floridians. They're residents. They're committed to our communities. We're going to be talking about cannabis legalization in the state of Florida, and even more importantly, social equity and what that looks like and why it's important to have that conversation. So, without further ado, let me make my round of introduction. We'll start with the ladies, or the lady, my friend, my sister, Representative Anika Onfroy. Please introduce yourself and tell us what district you represent, and good evening.
Good evening. I'm grateful to be with you today, Roz. It's been a long time, and this is a great time to have this conversation. My name is State Representative Anika Onfroy. I represent House District 95 in Broward County, Florida. I tell people that my part of Broward is the heart of Broward because it's Central Broward. And I'm grateful to be here to continue our conversation that we had, I believe it was last year. And I felt like we had such a moving conversation. So it's great to be here with you. I'm grateful that I have now made a new friend in DJ Howard. I saw him pop up on my timeline. I was like, hey, hello, friend. So thank you so very much for inviting us back and for being a chief in the tribe to get this done. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. We thank you so much. Next, we have my friend who I miss being in Tallahassee. You know, I miss you, sir. I miss you. I miss coming to your office. This is one of the most open door state senators that you will ever meet. I live in his district, so he represents my district in Winter Garden, Florida. This is Senator Randolph Bracy. Good evening, sir. Introduce yourself and tell us about your district and where you are, and just in the role you play in the state of Florida.
Good evening, Roz. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. You are a constituent, but a friend, and I miss you. Haven't seen you in a while, and so it's good to see you via Zoom. I represent District 11, West Orange County. It's Orlando, Ocoee, Apopka, Winter Garden, all of West Orange County, and most of West Orange County. But I've been elected now in the Senate for 5 years. 4 years before that in the House. I was the first person to introduce legalizing adult recreational marijuana 8 or so years ago when I first got to the House. So I've been about this, but and we still have more work to do. We need to follow suit with some of the states that have just legalized recreational marijuana. New Mexico, New York just did it last week, and so it's our time. It's been past due, and we can get into it tonight, but everyone knows the benefits of it. I think it will be an economic boom to our state. It will provide jobs and so much more. So it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. And then last but not least, we got this young man who's so fired up, full of energy. I'm proud to announce that he's the state director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana here in the beautiful state of Florida. Please introduce yourself, DJ Howard. Hey, my friend, how are you?
I'm good, Roz. Thank you for having me, Representative Onfroy, Senator Bracy. Pleasure to meet you both, and happy to be here just to talk. As everybody said, it's time to talk about legalizing cannabis here in the state of Florida. And I'm just so happy to be amongst people who believe in the social equity aspect and have been and continue to fight for it, and continue to do the work. And I'm happy to be here to help you guys do that. So thank you for having me. As Senator Bracy said, we can get into it.
We can get busy, right? Listen, so by getting busy, think about this. I did my research, and Representative Onfroy, there are 12 bills that are associated with legalization going through the chambers right now on the House and the Senate side. Where are we? Like, how did Florida get here, in your estimation? How did the conversation become so? It seems like everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon of what this looks like, but to have 12 different bills that are focused on some parts of legalization, I would love to hear your thoughts about that and what it means.
For me, I'm the newbie on the call as far as the legislators are concerned in this process. So this is my third session. And what I think is taking place is that legalization has become the sexy topic now. Being pro-Black, pro-brown people is sexy now. Being a part of the conversation to add equity is sexy. So you see it taking place, but you don't see it being taking place in the manner that I think it should be on.
Sure.
I looked at some of the bills and I was actually trying to not file my bill because I saw another bill that looked like it could work, that we could just add the language to.
Sure.
Because they gave, Senator Bracey has the luxury of being able to file unlimited bills, right? In the House side, I had 6, and then they gave us 7. I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. So with one extra bill, I was like, ooh, I can do more. But with this bill, you have to file the bill and the taxes. And so, looking at it, just trying to have conversations about how to make it work. And then I had conversations with other members, and they were like, oh, I don't know if I want to touch all of that. What do you mean? What do you mean about all of, you don't want to touch all of that? Or you get the, nobody wants to call you back when you ask them where the rest of their social equity is. And I'm not trying to shade anybody, but I would like to know why we don't deserve all of that. I believe that people are doing what is sexy. They're doing the portion of it that will get them those what I call those likes and those quick news articles that say, oh, Representative so-and-so or Senator so-and-so is doing
we call it clickbait over here.
There we go. I'm getting new words. Clickbait, and I'm like, we don't have time for clickbait. We got to do the heavy lifting in the Florida legislature. That's our job.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think. That's what I think is going on. Everybody wants to be with it when it's sexy. And I have a saying with my favorite attorney, Cheryl Murray Powell. We say this is from the dirt. Like, we got to get it from before it even gets planted. We need to let everybody know we're not playing in this foolishness.
Absolutely. And shout out to Cheryl Murray Powell for just always being a fighter, a warrior princess. We love you, Cheryl. Senator Bracey, same question. And where we are right now, and the fact that we just saw legalization, you mentioned it, legalization in New York passed. It's one of the most progressive bills that anyone has seen. Can Florida get that progressive? And you may not know the nuance of it, but it's really progressive and it's comprehensive. We got 12 bills out there. What we're seeing thus far is everything hitting the mark. I think we're missing some points, don't you think? Or what do you think the reason and the rationale behind it?
The reason and the rationale behind why we haven't.
Yeah, like why we're seeing so many bills come up now in regards to legalization. Is it jumping the bandwagon, trying to get a piece of the market, trying to figure out, and it's on the Republican and the Democrat side, in my estimation.
Yeah, I think Rev. Freud said it. It's the sexy topic. I remember when I did it, I had many people that were like, "Don't do that. You're gonna get unelected real quick." Like, it was, and this is just 8 years ago, where it was almost taboo. Now, it's like the sexy thing to do, and it's funny in such a short amount of time. I think, as people see the trend nationally, I think you got presidential candidates talking about it in last election cycle. So it's kind of like, it's okay, almost like reparations. Before, it was like that was a non-starter. Now every Democratic candidate for president wants to talk about it. I think it's like it's okay now, but there's people that have been doing the work way before it was cool. I remember when I first started, I did it because there was this young man that I used to work with. I was in the school system, and he just had a marijuana charge. And I just realized how much it would affect his future. And I saw, just a lot of people that were incarcerated or had a record because of a marijuana charge. And it was like, we are hampering people. We're filling our prison system with people using a drug that's not harmful, and then we're hampering their future. So that was really my reasoning in the beginning. It wasn't like, I could care less whether people smoked it or not, but that was the way I came at it. And so it was more so about what's it doing to my community. Whereas now it's like a political um piece to elevate, people's profile a lot of
Absolutely.
times. But I think that's what we're starting to see.
No, absolutely. DJ, from your perspective, you are, tell us, are you a Floridian by nature? Have you moved here? Like, tell us, what do you do in the industry, or what do you do outside of just, connecting with M4MM? And why is this issue right now so important to you as someone who's a resident of this great state?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I actually lived here in Tampa, where I currently reside in Florida, before I moved to DC. And so then I moved to DC for about 3 years and was exposed to the cannabis industry up there. And then I was planning to come back around 2016. And right before I came back, I actually got Senator Bracey was just talking about the young man that he met, that he was concerned about how that charge might affect his future. I actually received a simple possession charge. At the time, I was moving back to Florida. I had got a new job. I was doing really well in my marketing profession. But then, with the possession charge, I got really into what was going on, because I understood that for myself, it may not be something that immediately that I was necessarily concerned about after dealing with it all. But from like a professional standpoint, it ended up being an issue when I applied to other jobs and when I wanted to do things. Because I didn't get arrested or anything. There's people who've been arrested, and that's a totally different, subject matter. But just still having a simple possession charge ended up affecting me. And I decided to get out of the profession that I was in, working in agency, doing agency marketing and advertising. So now, in the CBD space, I have a business where we have a lifestyle brand that has edibles and other products that we sell for the public. But on the THC side, with legalizing, everybody talked about it. The wave is here. We've seen what New York, New Mexico, Virginia is starting to do, and it can create great opportunity. But if it's not socially equitable, to Senator Brace and Representative Umfor's points, it's really very performative. There's not really anything socially equitable that's doing anything for us. And for myself, if I wanted to have an MMTC, then I might have an issue with that because of, my criminal history with having, a simple possession charge. So I think it's incredibly important from an economic standpoint, from a patient standpoint. I think it's just now is the time to go ahead and get it done, and not just get it done, but get it done right. And that's why I appreciate everybody on this call who is working to do exactly that.
Right. I love your last statement, to get it done right. It's so imperative that we get it done right, and that we look at, and when you have the opportunity, and we're just weighing in on this because we want to make sure, especially from communities of color, that we're represented and that we have a conversation and that we're heard. Representative Onfroy, when we talk about your bill, and I put the bill, so everybody who wants to see, we got HB 1597. I put it in the chat so everybody will see it. There are some really unique pieces to your bill that I like. So before I go over the things that I like, can you talk about some of the things in your bill that you really want to highlight, or that you think are just pieces that you've been able to pull together?
The one thing I have to say is that the people who have received their licenses for the medical marijuana are already grandfathered into this legislation, because we know that these large companies are probably going to be our biggest pushback. So we made sure that we grandfathered them in. So that's one thing I want to just say right off the bat. They're grandfathered in. Our Pickford litigants are that one black.
that one.
I have to wrap the finger on that one black litigant that can qualify for this is also grandfathered in. But my favorite part of the bill happens to be the fact that it's not vertical. I mean, how can you have a multi-billion-dollar industry and make it so that only the wealthiest of the wealthiest can get involved in it? For me, I tell people all the time, I am micro business friendly. I am Black, brown friendly. I am access friendly to all Floridians. But when I wake up every morning, I'm reminded of the things, the barricades that were placed in our way that we have to continue to break down. And so that was the biggest thing. Like, we can't have this horizontal situation. I remember sitting in meetings when they tried to put a vertical on hemp. I showed up at every meeting like, what you trying to do now? Like, literally sat in on board meeting, on committee meetings that I don't serve on. But I showed up and was like, what you trying to do now? On the House floor, I was like, I'm just making sure you're not trying to do that now. Okay.
Yes.
Because if you don't pay attention, they'll do all kinds of stuff. And I look at, hearing DJ and hearing other people's stories who are building successful businesses. Can you imagine if they had done a vertical integration on that instead of horizontal? It would have been a hot mess. So that's it for me. It's the non-vertical for me that is the best part of this bill.
That's very good. And so when we talk about non-vertical, that really stands out. And Senator Bracy, you there? I know we got you make your video. There you go. So from your bill, Senator Bracy, SB 1916, is there one thing or something in particular that you might like to kind of like that you like or that stands out in your estimation about your bill that is it the vertical breaking down horizontal integration, or what is it about your bill that you like that really rings in your mind?
Well, I would agree with Representative Alfroy. The horizontal portion of the bill is, I think, the most important. How do you lock up people for a generation, mostly Black and brown people, for simple possession or what have you, marijuana charges, and then you vertically integrate where only the wealthiest people can get in this business? It just screams of injustice. And so I think it's important not only to provide a horizontal but a framework, but also you've got to repair the people that you have locked up for like the past couple of decades. Like, I don't know how you even move past that. And so there's like an expungement portion that would expunge people with possession of under 30 grams. And so I think you have to do that. And there are certain considerations for Black and brown people also because of what had happened in the war on drugs and how they were incarcerated for the use of this. So
I love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the social justice aspect of it, and we're going to talk about how, and I want to go into some of the parts about the bill right first, but we're going to talk about how any bill in the state of Florida, if you're out there listening, if that bill on the adult use side does not have a social equity program that has a social justice opportunity of repairing the harm, that bill should not go anywhere. It should die in committee. Because again, it is a no-brainer. We're looking state after state where states are putting in progressive social equity programs, and we're going to talk about that. But Representative Onfroy, one thing that I saw in your bill, and I would love to get your take on this, is you have personal cultivation. What's your thoughts on personal cultivation, and what does that mean to Floridians?
I mean, I went to Jamaica in 2019 and got an opportunity to speak at a conference there. And they were talking about growing in the backyard. And I thought to myself, you know what? We need that here. Like, we need to be able to cultivate in our own, but we can grow fruits and vegetables. I mean, I believe that we should also be able to grow our own cannabis if we so choose to. And I mean, we're in an era where I'm seeing it take place in other countries. I want it here also. As a kid growing up, I'm the great granddaughter of a farmer and the cousin of a farmer. My cousin is a professor, a retired professor now, that deals with the transportation of tropical fruit, right? And when I sit down to think about it, why should we not be able to grow everything the way we want to? And then I sit down and think about something that Senator Bracy said and what you said. This has been a war on us. We as Black and brown people have been, and working class people have been a part of growing our own things out of necessities. And I feel like this is just an extension of us, and with urban ag, the ability to grow this in my backyard would be a major thing. The other thing is the war on us. We are safest if we grow it in our own backyard and walk it into our house. Like I'm still afraid of whatever is going to come, because they're going to adjust laws once we get this passed. There's going to be something that says blah 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 shma. But if I can grow it in my backyard, I can go into my house with this for my own personal use and the personal use of the people within my household. I'm all for it. And I'm also a fan of craft growing license. I love the idea of being able to transport to craft infuser license. Like, I just like the idea of the things that we see taking place in the alcohol industry being allowed in this industry.
Yes.
Don't lock us out of being able to create the things that we do naturally as a people, and that's my thought process. The war on us was unjust, and we're about to fix the war on us.
And we live in it. Hey, right. DJ, tell everybody about what you're in the industry, but on the hemp side, and how we've seen representation of Black farmers who have facilities right now that are like the fact that we don't have that one Black farmer license already doled out is an issue in itself. But just talk about, from your perspective as a business person that's on the hemp CBD side, how you've seen these Black and brown farmers or business owners really ready to enter the market with something very special and unique. And it really talks to that craft growing conversation that Representative Onfroy is talking about.
Yeah, so there are people on the CBD and hemp side who are doing some really cool and interesting things. And, obviously a lot of it can really easily translate to the THC side. It's just a matter of doing, for a lot of them, it's a formulation here or there, tinkering with something, using something, a different plant, a variety. And it would be great in the industry from an economic standpoint, from a consumer and patient standpoint. It would be really good to Representative Onfroy's point with growing in your own backyard, being safe. I want to go to that because, being able to feel safe doing something is incredibly important. And then the prices at the MMTCs are really, really high. A lot of people can't afford that who actually need it and would want to use cannabis. So being able to do something in your own backyard and tailor it to exactly what you want and what you need from a patient standpoint, then I think that is something we should absolutely allow people to do. And to your earlier point, to your question about on the CBD and hemp side, what people are able to do, I think it's going to create a lot of opportunity if we're able to put things in place that allow Black and brown people to be able to have, as both of these bills have, be able to have access into the industry without so many barriers. A lot of them come from communities where, the war on us was very, very prevalent. They've experienced it firsthand and with their families. So for them being able to have that access would really give them, a leg up, or at least not necessarily a leg up because we were already back, a leg toward forward. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's incredibly important, and being able to do that would open up a lot of opportunity for people and from a business standpoint and for patients and consumers as well.
And that's something that Dr. Barry Gordon, shout out to Dr. Barry Gordon, a great supporter and just a great practitioner in the state. And we talk about the fact that one thing we want to make sure is critical is that we do not want to see the medical program cannibalized by the adult use program. There is still opportunity. The medical program needs reforming in Florida. We need reciprocity. So if you live in California, you come to Florida, you have the opportunity to be able to have your card, acknowledged here in the state of Florida. So many different things that we need from a reforming perspective, but we don't want to miss out on the fact that adult use should not take over and swallow the medical program. Honestly, it should probably maybe provide even more resources for the medical program so that if you have caregiver programs that want to grow, and now you have the opportunity to personal grow for as a caregiver. I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I think you're right. I think in the bill we also touch on the fact that adult use, recreational adult use, should not take away from the medical use. It is it's written into the language, but you're right, Roz. Being able to travel from state to state with your card and having it be recognized is significant. I mean, I can get my prescription in New York if I need it. So why shouldn't I be able to also have any of my other medical needs taken care of wherever I'm at? And we know that, especially in the middle of, we live in a I shouldn't say, is the word transient? In a transient society, like we travel.
Yes.
And anything can happen. And so we should be able to access our medical needs from wherever. So thank you.
I agree. Hey, Senator Bracy, I got something I thought was so cool about in your bill. And I would just love your take on this. There in your bill, there is a authorize the Florida college system to offer career in cannabis certificate, and also create the Florida college system cannabis vocation pilot program. How cool is that we really normalize this industry through education? I would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. When I come back to my district, the number one thing I hear from constituents, especially young people, is they want to get in the business of marijuana. And so they know it's a demand for it. They know it has the potential to be very lucrative. And so I think we need to normalize a vocational program. We need to train people to get in the business of it. And so I think we all know there's a market for it. We know there's demand. And I think that it can really provide a lot of jobs and people can make a lot of money off of it. And so we need to have that portion where we are providing vocational support and training and opportunities for people to get in the business. And so I really do like that.
Yeah. And everybody's watching. Excuse me, I'm in my office right now and the sun is glaring. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to move. So sorry about that. But definitely, Senator Bracy, I thought that was so. I haven't seen in other bills where there's been a specific conversation about creating an education pathway of understanding what that looks like, certification. So I thought it was really, really kind of a unique nuance in your bill that I want to give you a shout out on.
Yeah, like I said, this is the most comprehensive bill to implement a legalized adult recreational infrastructure, I think, in the country. I think when you look at all aspects of this bill, I think we cover just about everything.
Right.
So I'm proud of it.
Hey, Roz, real quick, and
yes.
Don't feel bad. I'm dealing with the light issue as well, as you can probably see if I move just ever so slightly. But going back to the point, and I see a comment about education actually from my girlfriend and business partner with Saved by the Trees, Amber. We actually spoke to last week some graduating seniors who were very interested in being a part of the CBD and hemp industry and really had amazing questions. Like, I was blown away by their interest and their knowledge and just their curiosity in being in the space and truly wanting to understand what they needed to do to be a part of it. So I love in the bill that we were talking about with Senator Bracy, having that educational aspect and that vocational aspect. You know, a lot of people are not moving away from, but focusing more on specific certifications for specialties. And,
sure.
And having something like that for a cannabis program and allowing somebody the opportunity to, you know, use that if they know coming out of high school or in college that that's what they want to do, then absolutely give them the pathways to do that. And especially for the Black and brown community, obviously give them the pathways to be able to do that, keep them, you know, on the up and up as far as trying to make a career and a life for themselves. It really is the right thing to do based on what we've seen with the war on drugs, with the war on us.
Right.
It really is.
Well, one thing that Representative Onfroy and Senator Bracy, what they have is they have a company tax bill. I think that's HB 1599, and then that's SB 1918. And if we can just, Representative Onfroy, just talk about the tax implications. I can't even get that word out, but talk about, I'm sorry, to talk about the opportunity that the state of Florida is missing out on from an adult legalization perspective when you have the gray market and I want to see where we can bring the illegal market to the legal market and everybody wins, and therefore the state of Florida wins because the tax implications would be something that would be so tremendous where from a revenue generating perspective.
So we're looking to create a cannabis regulation fund, right? And cultivation privilege of 7% of the gross receipts from the sales of cannabis by a cultivator or craft grower to a dispensing organization. 10% of the purchase price for cannabis with THC levels at below 35%, 20% of the purchase price on all cannabis infused products. So there's like a big tier situation that we set up. But mainly what we're looking at is producing a fund that will continue to generate revenues for the state of Florida, and also making sure there's portions of that money that goes towards giving access to minorities into this industry and the people and I'm a Black person, so I do have my skew and my perspective is that of a Black person and a woman, right? And when I look at the war on us affected mainly us, but it also affected, for the first time in our history, white people are earning less than their parents did. And when you look at that factor, that as Black people and brown people, we even suffering even more, But anyways, fast forward. With this particular situation, setting aside $30 million to ensure that that people who are in areas that had high arrest rates in the state of Florida, I don't want you making up no sciences. We know what the arrest rates were in areas, and we know where there's double-digit poverty in areas, and we know where the war on us was the most intense in our state, right? The access for those communities to be able to now step into this industry is, I said that I love the fact, the most important part was the fact that it's not, it's horizontal.
Yes.
The second most important part is the fact that we have set aside resources to assist those communities, my community, our communities, in getting our foot back in the door. And that is the part, the education portion that you mentioned in reference to what Senator Bracy, it's a combination of all these things. Like, you sometimes you make food and you forget something, right? And it's all right. But it don't feel the same way. Okay, so I like Whole Food Market cake, right? The Chantilly version. The other day they had no Chantilly Whole Food Market cake, and so I went to Publix. The Publix one was all right, but it didn't hit the same. I don't want to eat our right access. I want proper access. I want the cake to be the cake I want, and I want to see when we legalize in the state of Florida for recreational use, that they even made the name of our bill wrong. I was like, that is not the name we gave y'all. But I have to say, we want it the right way the first time, because we've seen in this state where when we do things peace, sometimes the pieces never happen.
And I'm a witness to that. I am such a witness to. We had good intentions, and shout out to Eric Range. He's in the back helping us monitor and bring up all the comments. I want to make sure you guys know that in about maybe like 10 minutes, we're going to open it up for questions. Put your questions in the comment box, because we want you to have an opportunity to ask your questions as well, and we'll pick a few. But we were able to get a diversity language into the medical bill that required operators to produce a community engagement diversity plan for every operator in the state of Florida. What we didn't do, and this was in 2016, so it was still so brand new in the conversation, what we didn't do was we didn't put some type of enforcement piece in there to make sure that whatever was being submitted, that there was someone in the agency or someone saying, okay, this is what you put in, and this is what you have to have in order to have your license and get your license renewed. We want to make sure that you're doing what you said you're going to do. So that's where, we try to get it right the first time, because if we get it right the first time, then we don't have to go back and go, uh-oh, and we made a boo-boo and it's still not fixed yet. So that's where getting it right is so clearly important. And I just want to echo that point.
I have to say that we have a lot of laws in the books in Florida. We know I just did an amendment to, I took my bill in reference to mugshots, right? You can make them take it down, but they can put it back up. There's a loophole. So I went and tried to close that loophole. And it was already illegal to do so. But like you said, because of enforcement, people get away with whatever they feel like they can get away with. But Roz, don't worry, we'll go and try to make a little amendment to that thing and put some teeth in it, because at the end of the day, you work really hard to get that in.
We did. And we've gotten support from, Commissioner Freeze, that her agency could oversee it. That we've had some other, maybe give the Department of Health some responsibility to oversee it. But I just think it is something that if we're going to put this in and everything else is measured, why is this not measured? And it's so critical and so important. You know what, Senator Bracey, when I first met you, you were the chair of the Criminal Justice Committee. Because I didn't meet you when you were on the House side, I met you on the Senate side. And can you talk about the importance of, sealing and expunging of records and having it automatic with these adult use bills that you both have championed right now? We would love to get your thoughts on that and why it's important.
Yeah, it's so important. Well, I was just thinking, I gotta check out Whole Foods. They deserve it.
Check out the cake. Yeah, I gotta check out the cake too.
Yeah, the way her Emperor is talking about it, I thought Publix was doing all right, honestly. But it's extremely important. And so I have a separate bill, to be honest, that deals with expungement of misdemeanor offenses. And I think our misdemeanor threshold is too small. So under 22 grams or under 21 grams is a misdemeanor. I think that should be much higher, because so anything over 21 is a felony. And I just think that is way too low to be given a felony for, let's say, 22 grams of marijuana. But anyway, I'm providing for expungement of those offenses, and it's moving through the legislation now. But it's so important to address that. I mean, I said it because even with so right now I've had to whittle my bill down to only expunging one misdemeanor offense. But even with that, even if a person is allowed one misdemeanor offense to be expunged, that's like almost 200,000 people statewide.
Yeah, is that an automatic expunging, or is that going through the whole entire process?
It's going through the process, and the only reason why I did it like that is because of what I've had to negotiate with Republican leadership. It's like we're taking the best that we can get right now. So I believe in automatic expungement, and I'm still pushing for that. But my point is, even with just one expungement given, that would affect 150,000+ people statewide that have a misdemeanor conviction that is not allowing them to get certain jobs. They can't apply to go to the military. They can't apply for certain apartments, housing. I mean, just a misdemeanor conviction. Someone could have something like just a joint, and they got caught with that, got it on their record, and it's staying with them for the rest of their lives. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
And we have an expungement clinic planned for April 24th down in Riviera Beach, Florida. And the one thing about the expungement clinic is there's so many nuances, and I think your bill will help us from if your bill was already in place in law, we would have more opportunity to help more people, because the current law says that you have to have like an adjudication withheld, or if you had a charge that was dropped, but it doesn't go into if you have like a simple possession misdemeanor, and of course if you have a felony. So I want to say kudos for you. Senator Bracey, pop back in and let's talk about, like, you've been you are the master, in my opinion. One of the masters. It's a couple masters, but you're one of the masters of understanding how to reach across the aisle to get the body of your bill done. And can you just talk about that? Because sometimes people are like, well, why it don't happen? What's taking us so long? Well, why isn't it done? And just understanding, especially in a conservative state, even though we live in Florida, where we feel like it's so diverse, our lawmakers are conservative. And I mean, if you could just talk about that for a little bit, sir, I would just love it.
Yeah, we're in the South. I mean, let's just be honest. We're in the South. Florida has one of the worst records of just criminal justice reform. If we just go and paint a broad brush with that in the country. And so what I've tried to do is look at the reality of, look, we have a Republican controlled House, Senate, executive branch, and what can I do within that place? And so I realized they run it, and I realized that I'm gonna have to make compromises on what I want. I learned that early on. I wanted legalized marijuana from the time I got here. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to take this step by step because we're just not there. And so I just try to find out, what is it that you're willing to take. I develop relationship with people. I go to see them outside of the time we're in our lawmaking session, get to know them, get to know their families. Look, okay, now we got a relationship. This is what I want. What are you willing to do? And I'm willing to, and then I push and I needle them. And once I realize, okay, that's the most we gonna get, I do it. And then sometimes you get flack from your people back home. That's all that's happening. But it's like, look, you want this and nothing. I mean, and it's just the realities of what it is being up here. Y'all want the whole caboodle? Let's figure out how to win the governor's mansion. But until that time, or flip the Senate. But until that time, this is what we got to do. And
you got to play chess.
And I try to work within that. Right.
Listen, I've seen you at events where we normally are not there. They're there, and it's after hours, and it's negotiating. And then so I just wanted to acknowledge that, because the bill may not be perfect, and we want to get it right. However, if we have to be able to figure out what areas we're willing to compromise on and what areas we're not. And so that's a great segue as we start wrapping up a little bit. And I want to encourage folks, if you're listening, put your questions in the comment box. We want to hear from you. DJ, you've been following other different states. What's the vibe on social equity? Why is it important? Why should Florida look at it and focus on it? And why it should be adult use without social equity should be a non-starter?
Absolute non-starter. And it's because of the war on us. And honestly, that's why I appreciate Representative Umfor and Senator Bracey's bills, because they kind of look at it from a real comprehensive standpoint. Somebody said earlier that, it takes multiple different things. It's chess, not checkers. We gotta, play all different kind of sides. And it's really important, because if we do not write social equity into the bills, then we create the opportunity or leave the door open for us to continue to be oppressed and have the war on us still kind of be there, and not be able to get into the industry, and still not be able to, create generational wealth and do all these things that we want to do, that, we see other people who don't look like us doing. Being able to have the social equity point in there, it's just a non-starter. We've seen other states, New York, they have a lot of different social equity points and measures in their bill. And then the follow-up is key, because even if we do write it in, it might not actually happen. We have to put something in place, an Office of Cannabis Management or something that oversees, and that it's a diverse group of people who come from different backgrounds, whether they be advocates or people who have worked in the industry, may not necessarily be all lawmakers, but people who can make up a diverse group, because, as conservative or red as Florida may be, it is a diverse state. We have a huge tourist community. People come here and move, and then they end up staying. So I think that it's really important that we have these measures in place, because if we don't, we leave the door open for us to not be able to benefit at all from the legalization of something that's harmed us for so long. And that's just, we can't have that. We cannot have that at all.
No, I mean, I think you're right on point. Representative Onfroy, any thoughts on his comments? I think, the social equity piece and I definitely will be interested in your thoughts on who should oversight wise, because you might create the infrastructure and the statute that gives the opportunity for a program, but it's the promulgating of the rules and the regulations and who's going to manage that and enforce that is so critical.
I personally believe it should go with the department, like the part under the regulation of the Department of Alcohol and Tobacco, because they've already been regulating this type of regulating industry, and so I believe they have the tools and the skill set to actually be able to regulate how our recreational cannabis goes. Of course, with the Department of Health, but how I see it would be with them. I
Okay.
just think I just think that they've already been doing it. So it'd be easier if they continue to do it. They already have officers, they already have investigators, they already have people that are already trained in. They have to, of course, hire more people because it's going to be even bigger than I believe alcohol. But that's where I see it, and that's how we have it. How we have it written in.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's oversight, alcoholic beverages, marijuana, and tobacco. I think one of the critical things that we have to make sure is that DJ mentioned this. A lot of different states have a cannabis commission within that agency, or they have individuals who represent the communities that are diverse in order to make sure that the pull through happens the way that it was meant to happen with the intent of the law. And I think it's so critical.
Completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. I feel like, we need that, and we need them to have oversight over the agency who's overseeing, because if not, we have a commission on ethics. We definitely need a commission on cannabis.
Yes.
So that has teeth in it, that can look at, see, okay, so they're not managing it so well over here. We might need to have a conversation and drop some regulation on them, So
yeah.
I agree with DJ and his sentiment. Like, this conversation for me has just been amazing, because there's nothing like talking to people who get it and people who have been fighting for it from before I got elected to office. I just got in the place in 2018. So
yeah,
I'm
but you're gonna be here for a long time. You're a strong sister. Y'all like it because listen, it's warrior. So hey guys, we have a couple questions that come from the audience, and Senator Bracy, this one's for you. It says, do you think legalization will pass in the legislature or via ballot initiative? What you guys have? You have your bill. I don't know. I know it's been going through committee or what have you. What's your gut telling you right now, Senator Bracy?
Well, I would say that legalization would probably happen on the ballot initiative side first. The current legislature has not been open to moving our bill at this time, and so that's why I said we've been taking. I've been focusing on the expungement piece of it first. But that's just my take. I mean, unless we win the governor's mansion, and then the governor can push the legislature to do something like this as one of his or her priorities, then I just don't see it. This legislature has not been willing to move it. That's how we got a medical marijuana framework by the ballot initiative, and now they're currently pushing a measure that would raise the threshold to get a ballot initiative passed. So right now it's 60%. You've got to get over 60% of the electorate to vote for a ballot initiative. They're changing it to 66%. And that's directly because of the Amendment 2 medical marijuana amendment that passed, and the Amendment 4 that allowed for returning citizens to pass, and the $15 an hour minimum wage. And so they're trying to do everything they can to stop initiatives that they don't want moving to pass. And so I think people have to be vigilant. People really have to organize and really check these candidates on where they are on marijuana reform, because it's becoming crucial. These decisions are going to be made by the legislature, or it's going to be made by a ballot initiative, and we've really got to pay attention to what they're doing, because it's going to be harder and harder to pass something like this if things continue. I hope that makes sense.
I agree. Did you have a comment, Representative Onfro? Yeah, go for it.
I do. Senator Bracy and I are both Democrats. And don't get me wrong, I never want to see a government that is fully one thing, because I believe that balance is necessary to get things done. When we look at the losses that we took last year, we lost 5 House seats and 1 Senate seat.
Wow.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that we have the ability in this state to make changes. The activist community, the strategists, the funders, and the people have moved a lot of things forward in this state. We have to get our party structure in the Democratic Party organized correctly, because right now what's taking place is, and sometimes I wonder if it's by design, there is a fear factor that the leadership in the Florida House, the Florida Senate, and our governor's mansion are navigating through, a fear factor. And that fear is why they keep coming up with these rules and these laws and these things. They're afraid of losing control.
Mm-hmm.
I believe leaders are supposed to love their people, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, whether they vote or they don't vote, whether they have money or they don't have money. Your job is to take care of the people. You're the steward of your people. You're supposed to take care of. And what we have going on right now is we have leaders in the Democratic Party who think that they're kingmakers and queen makers, and they're not looking at the big picture. We have leaders in the Republican Party who are afraid of us gaining our voices correctly in the Democratic Party. And so they keep, out of fear, coming up with ways to block us from progress.
Gotcha.
But what's going to end up happening is that people, once again, it says we the people, right? The ballot initiatives, them blocking it, making the threshold higher. I'm almost certain that once the Republican leadership understands that all Floridians are tired of them playing around with cannabis, they will shift their tune. So we need everyday people who understand this industry to explain to their other friends and family members, and start to I wear high heels. Start to put your high heels on their necks. Gentlemen, please start putting your kicks on their necks and explain to them that it's time. The pressure is necessary. It's time to hit those pressure points, like when you go to get your foot reflexology. Time to hit those pressure points and let them understand that we need these things done, and to stop minimizing the people of Florida because of their fears.
Yeah.
It's long overdue. Stop trying to control us and give us access to what we need.
And let me tell you something. I think Chris Cano made a great point that if you look at Virginia, the whole attitude towards cannabis reform and legalization changed when they flipped the state blue. And it's from the governor's side all the way down. You know, they have Commonwealth in Virginia versus having counties and things of that nature and districts. But long story short, you know, elections matter at the end of the day. And I didn't say that. Chris Cano did. Such a great point. We had another question. The question was, I'm a veteran and I'm looking and interested in entering into the industry. Any thoughts on that? Now, I'm going to pose it to you, DJ. For somebody who is still trying to figure it out, and you've been in your own process, what are some of the things that you tell people who know they are going to be interested in getting into this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I would let them know, and this is some of the same things that I even told the graduating seniors. Like, you know, it can be very expensive to get into the industry, depending on what you want to do. If you want to have an MMTC, it costs a lot of money. Now, there are other things that you can do to get into the industry from an ancillary side, where the cost of entry is a little bit lower. It's more manageable. With Saved by the Treats, we were able to start that with basically our own money, like no investors, no angel investors or anything like that. We were able to start that up and grow from there. Now we've expanded our product line and are doing a lot of different things from where we began. And I think that opportunity is there from, and for veterans, there's a lot of programs that are also available where you can network and be involved and work with people. But there are so many, from a transportation side to different other ancillary businesses, from insurance, and you could be making edibles. You can do so many different things, being a bud tender, to like having your own. I know a couple of people, one actual farmer who has so many different things that he started from by just simply growing, and he got his license, and now he does so many other different things. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I would say consider where you're at right now, and how much you have to invest, and then look and understand that, like a lot of different industries, cannabis has a lot of different points that makes the industry run and operate. And just like with any other industry, take whatever it is that you do really good and apply that to the cannabis industry. If it's not necessarily being a grower or a cultivator, or it's not owning an MMTC to start, that's totally okay. Start where you can start. Get started now while opportunity is prevalent, while it's a hot thing, before it becomes way too hard to get into the market because of there's so much competition, or whatever the case may be. Get in it now, start now, because the earlier you start, the sooner that you'll be able to adjust and figure out what you need to do to get it exactly where you want to. That's what I would say. There's a lot of different ways to go about it.
Yep. I think it's so critical, the point that you made of understanding, like, when you're getting into the industry, understanding one, what's your why are you getting into it, and then realizing there's so many entry points, and the entry point that you think you might want might be the one that is so that, like, it's just too much that goes with it in regards to regulations and compliance, and it could be another entry point that's not touching plant, that you can make so much more money and be so much more happier. So you guys think big, and if you want more support, always come to M4MM. We can help you guys kind of figure out what some of the hottest entry points are outside of touching plant. Representative Onfroy, as we wrap up, I want to get your take on just the sheer economics of this industry, especially when you think about, and Senator Bracey, this question is going to go to you as well. The sheer economics of the fact that you had a state like Colorado that in 2019 did 500 million in tax revenue, not revenue but in tax revenue. And Colorado has the population is what, maybe 10 million people, if that, in regards to population. Florida is almost double, 21, 22, 23 million people. I mean, just the economics of this. Talk about that for this, as it relates to the state.
Just in tax alone, I feel like we should be no less than 3.5 billion. Like, I just feel that's where we're going to be at. We have tourists coming into our state. People don't come to Florida once. People come to Florida multiple times. It's like it's a spot that people come to, and sometimes they're in Sanibel, sometimes they're in Miami-Dade, sometimes they're in Tampa, sometimes they're in Orlando. They come to our state and they look at it for all that it has, and it has so much diversity. When I traveled to the Panhandle after the hurricanes, I had a sheriff ask me, when are we going to get this thing legalized? I got hemp, and the hemp thing my daughter gave me is working, so we need to get the other stuff legalized. And it was the cutest thing to me that in the Panhandle, they're trying to figure out how they can get involved in this industry. So there will be, I believe, cannabis tourism that will take place in this state. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm looking at 3.5 billion on a reasonable level.
On a reasonable level. And the reminder is that the delivery system of cannabis is not just everybody going around and tokened up and smoking. There's so many other delivery and reliefs and things that you can get, be able to get into your Zen place. And so we just gotta, take away the stigma. Senator Bracey, as we wrap up, your thoughts on the economics of this industry and what it presents to the state of Florida?
Yeah, I would assume that it's probably more than 3.5 billion. That would just be my guess. I mean, again, with the third largest state, you got people chomping at the bit, waiting for Florida to legalize. This is the most sought after market for people that want to get into cannabis business, because of the tourism, because of just everything Florida has to offer. And so I think the economic impacts are are really they're just far-reaching. So that's just tax revenue. I mean, you're talking a couple billions of dollars, and then
Yeah.
the jobs that will be provided. Not even to mention like the public safety aspect. I believe like you're gonna see teen use decrease. There's all kinds of benefits economically, more jobs, public safety will be enhanced, and we're going to have more tax revenue. And then the way we could disperse that tax revenue for better education, better roads, just all kinds of, I mean, the social equity aspects of this bill that we're talking about. There's so many good things you can do with that extra revenue.
Yeah.
Especially if we need it because of the shortfall we've had for COVID. You know, we can take care of ourselves in this state.
And we want to see tax revenue that, and again, we want to define a social equity program, and we want to see revenue that's going back to the most disproportionately impacted communities during the war on drugs era. It is a must, and it's mandatory. So for everybody that's listening to us, you know, Senator Bracy, we're so grateful for your work and for just your commitment to community. Representative Onfroy, so grateful for your work and your commitment to community. This is a serious matter, and you take this. And let me tell you guys don't understand how many bills and different agenda items and issues that come through their desk. Like I used to be bebopping up there thinking, okay, wait, I want to talk about my stuff. Like it ain't just my stuff. It's the whole state of Florida that they're dealing with. But to take time out of your schedule and to be on here with me today and this evening, knowing how passionate we are about this, thank you from the bottom of my heart so much. I really appreciate you.
We appreciate you back. I just want to say that you never know how things are going to shape up, but I'm almost certain when I look back at the video of us having this conversation, we said we would be making these moves, and we've made them. And so I'm just grateful to have Senator Bracy's guidance. You know, like I said, I'm new in this, and so having a senator who has been kicking butt from before I even thought to run, I'm grateful. I'd like to thank you, Roz, because your fingerprints are on this bill.
I appreciate you.
I would like to thank all of the other partners who came together to assist us with this. I have to give a special shout out to, I don't know if you know this, but my cousin is attorney Cheryl Murray Powell for keeping pressure on me when I was trying to figure out if I should just, you know, jump in on somebody else's bill and just navigate through and just help them. She was like, we deserve better. And she just kept saying it. We deserve better. We deserve better. And I was like, we deserve better. We deserve better. And she's
an advocate. She's a warrior.
Right. No, she's a warrior. And she does it with a smile. There's nothing like telling your big cuz no. You know, my big cuz told me that I had to do better. And so I am grateful for her, and I'm grateful to meet you, DJ. I'm grateful for all the people who are tuning in. I'm thankful, Roz. And let me just tell you, that sunshine was hitting you. I know you couldn't see, but your skin was glowing.
I was glowing, girl.
I was like, yes, highlights, yes, glowing skin, yes, beautiful teeth.
I was glowing. I was going. Hey,
you were glowing.
Listen, I do this every single day. I'm in the office. So this is we are brick and mortar. We're right here in your district. Senator Bracy, right off of Orange Center Boulevard, John Young Parkway, over in the Hope Village. So anybody in Florida, come see me. Come see me. We got great things. We're going to be doing expungement clinics. We're not going to wait on the bill. We know the bill's going to happen, but M for MM, we're going to drive this. Shout out to everybody within the organization. I love you guys. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. If it were not for our team and our leadership throughout the country, I couldn't do this. And so, Senator Bracy, DJ Howard, Representative Onfroy, thank you for being on with us today. Thank you so much. Everyone, you know, when we do this stuff, we have to have supporters. Thank you to Curaleaf so much for supporting us, for believing in us, for saying, listen, what do you need, Roz? How can we help you? We need you to show up and show out. And so we thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. Everybody that's on with us, go do something special for folks. Go join M for MM. Go tell people about it. But more importantly, let's legalize Florida, and let's make sure social equity is a key piece of the legislation. Thank you, guys, and have a great night.
Thank you.